Oh, hello, this is Tak Chung from Walk with Tak. Welcome to my YouTube channel. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and share. Please feel free to write to me at walkwithtak@gmail.com if you have any question regarding to this video or any video that I have posted in the past. If you have a video that you would like me to make, please let me know. I'm looking forward to hearing from you. My friend Dan loves pork, and he particularly enjoys pork loin. He normally finds that to cook pork loin, the best way is to roast it. But recently, he discovered a way to cook it by stir-frying. Now, pork turned out to be actually quite inexpensive, as most of us probably find that chicken is the least expensive. But pork is actually not that much more expensive than chicken. Here is about 2.5 pounds of pork loin that costs only about $5. And you can look at this piece of pork loin, and there's really quite a bit of meat. Now, pork is more dense to chicken, so in some respect, it is also probably is more economical. Now, prepping pork loin is important in order to use it for stir frying. The idea of the prepping is that you cut the pork loin in the size that you want, so that when you're ready to stir fry, it will be all ready to go. In the case of stir frying, all you have to do is to cut them into thin slices. The size of the slices is not that important. It can be from very small to relatively large as shown here. However, the thickness is really critical because if the pieces are thin, they can be cooked very rapidly. Now, when you cut them into these thin pieces, you can store them the way as it is. And this is part of the system that I use in advanced prepping. I use this for prepping chicken, beef, lamb, and pork is basically you can treat it exactly the same. Now you notice that here I have some fat along the pork loin. Actually, you can keep the fat because pork actually, when they stir frying, the fat actually take on very nice flavor. Now, storing the pork loin, there are some trick to it. The best way I find that to store the pork loin is in the Ziploc sandwich bag. Now, the Ziploc sandwich bag will allow me to put in about 8 ounces of pork loin. And this will fill about 1/3 of the capacity of the Ziploc sandwich bag. And then you seal it. But before you do that, you press out as much air as you possibly can. In this way, you can consider it as a poor man's ways of vacuum packing. By filling the bag to only about 1/3 capacity, it is possible for you to spread out the pork over the entire bag. So you can carry out in such a way that to create a bag of pork loin in this Ziploc sandwich bag as it is in a very thin layer. Now, there's a tremendous advantage to have the pork loin spread out in this thin layer because when you're ready to thaw it, it provides maximum surface area that allow you to thaw it readily. And when you store the pork loin like this in the freezer, usually it will last about 3 to 6 months. And this is a good way to actually have pork loin anytime that you want. Because any night when you come home, you want some pork loin, you can walk in the kitchen and you can pick one bag out and then thaw it in about 10 minutes. Then you are ready to cook. And by storing them in this capacity, you can just start out with 8 ounces if that's what you want. If you want to have a larger portion, then you can thaw out another bag to give you much greater flexibility in deciding how much that you want to use. And this actually worked out very well for Dan because most of the time he is using the pork loin as a condiment rather than as the main ingredient because he wants to eat more vegetables. Okay, let's now go into the kitchen and I'm going to show you how to stir fry this pork loin. I'm going to cook the pork loin in my Cuisinart 14-inch stainless steel wok. Now, stainless steel wok requires seasoning each time before you start a cooking session in order to create a non-stick cook surface. However, seasoning a stainless steel wok is really simple, and I use a method called spot seasoning. And all you have to do is to heat up the oil until it reaches smoking point. And then you let it smoke for about 15 seconds. And this is the time when the wok is being seasoned to create a non-stick cook surface. Now, a stainless steel wok is much better than, say, a wok with non-stick coating because the stainless steel wok can get very hot. And this is the best way to sear meat. And this is the important part of cooking any type of meat. Searing it will allow you to seal in the flavor. Now, initially, I used a pair of tongs to tear the pork apart and then to spread them evenly on the surface of the wok. And I let it cook for about maybe 20 to 30 seconds. As you notice that now the pork is about 50% cooked. At this point, I add asparagus to the wok. Now, this is an important technique to cook the pork because once I add the asparagus to it, the temperature of the wok starts to drop significantly. And then I also add some king oyster mushroom. Now, both of these vegetables will modulate the temperature, and therefore the pork will cook more slowly. And this will allow you to maintain the pork with its texture that's going to be tender. And the doneness of the pork also can be controlled much readily using this method. And this method is applicable to any type of meat. For example, in the case of beef, which is probably more important than pork in terms of its texture, because quite often people like to cook beef, say, to medium rare or medium. So in this case, you will add the vegetables much sooner because this will help you to reduce the heat and therefore slow down the cooking of the meat. And in fact, this will create much tender and texture to the meat. Now we are almost done. I'm going to season the dish. First of all, start with some oyster sauce. I use about 1 tablespoon of oyster sauce, and this is followed by adding some minced garlic. Now, the addition of the garlic actually plays a really critical role. When you add garlic during the early phase of the cooking process, you will not actually taste that strong garlic flavor because the flavor of the garlic will be blended into the dish. However, if you add it later, the flavor of garlic is much stronger. So it all depends on how you like your garlic. You can add them at different times of the cooking process. This will result in the change. After I did a taste test, I decided I want to add just a touch sweetness to the dish. So I'm going to add some hoisin sauce. Now, hoisin sauce turned out to be a great sauce to change the flavor of a dish. Hoisin sauce is sweet, so oyster sauce is more savory because of the umami molecule that's present there from the oyster. After I did a final taste test, I decided I'm going to add additional amount of oyster sauce. So now I am almost done. At this point, I decided I want to have a little bit of a sweet and sour flavor to it. So I'm going to use about 1 tablespoon of a Panda Express orange sauce. Now, this is a strategy of flavor chasing by combining different types of sauces. Now, none of these sauces will dominate, but it will create a collective flavor. Last but not the least, this is for the purpose of visual appeal. I add some colored bell pepper. The colored bell pepper will give a brightness to the dish. So the dish is done. As you can see that the total cook time is only about 6 to 7 minutes. When I did the taste test, the pork tastes just perfect. It's not too done and it is not tough. It's very tender. By using this method, because of the other food ingredients that were added to the pork during the cooking process, and they slow down how the pork is being cooked. When you use this method, you'll be surprised how tender the pork is. If you do not use this method and you use high heat in the cooking of the entire process, the pork will become tough. And pork usually can become quite tough. But when you use it appropriately with the temperature applied during the cooking process, you can create really excellent texture for the pork. Now, this same method can be, as I mentioned, can be applied to beef, lamb, and not as much as chicken. Chicken seems to behave slightly differently. So you can consider this as a basic template. And the template can apply to different types of food ingredients. In this case, you can switch beef, pork, and lamb. And the end result is that you will create many different dishes using the same basic technique. And next, I'm going to garnish the dish with some scallion. The scallion adds great flavor to the dish, and it also adds a sense of freshness. This is the advantage of template-based cooking, because you can make adjustments according how you like the dish. And last but not the least, since I love cashew nut, so I'm going to add some cashew nut to the dish as well. This dish offers a demonstration of the fast cooking system, which is flavor chasing, advanced prepping, stir frying, and template-based cooking. This dish actually demonstrates all the 4 different aspects of the cooking system. And using these 4 different aspects, you can cook with efficiency, practicality, creativity, and fun. So if you would like to learn more about my fast cooking system so that you can make home cooking as part of your daily routine, please subscribe to this YouTube channel. So keep on cooking, and I will see you tomorrow.